Hi everyone, it's Becky here. So these Christmas cactus are in full bloom in our kitchen. So one pot over here and one pot up there. And I will sketch this pot today in my art journal. Okay, and I think I'm going to sketch in this angle so I can include all of these flowers. I think this view is better than this regular view because I don't want to include too much pot area. Okay, so this is my current watercolor sketchbook or art journal. I call it an art journal because it's kind of like an art diary. So I record the moments in my days from real life observations, including drawing and painting, and I sketch almost every single day. And over the past few days, I've been trying a type of watercolor pencils. It's called Inktense Pencils, made by the Derwent brand. As you can see, I really like these rustic hatching lines, and then adding a little bit of water on top to make the color pigment spread out a little bit, but still preserving these hatching lines. It's really organic looking. And today I will sketch on this page. So if you don't feel like ready to start with drawing with a pen directly, you can use a pencil. So right now I'm using a blue marker so you can see my lines better. So I am drawing the opening of the pot where all of the branches are emerging. This is the rim and the body of the pot. And you may want to draw lines like this to define the direction of growth of all of these branches. So I think it's easier if you start with a pot of cactus with less branches, so it's easier to manage. And on top of the pencil lines, you can draw with your ink pen. As you can see, now I am drawing the two pieces of leaves and then with the flower on the tip. So each cactus leaf is kind of like this razor shape. Every leaf is pretty much the same, they just repeat in different directions. Front view, this is the side view. Side view looks more narrow and squished. And every single flower is made up of these simple, thin shapes overlapping with each other, joined together. So they're just in different directions, but the general form is very, very similar. Okay, and then you can just draw over your pencil lines of all of these leaves and flowers. All right. So when drawing a potted plant, for me, I think it's pretty important to identify where the rim is. So it's easier to start connecting the leaves and flowers. As you can see, I just drew the left-hand side of the pot rim, and the right-hand side is mainly covered by the branches of leaves and flowers. And I'm just starting to connecting the shapes that I see. There are two types of shapes: the shape of the cactus leaf and the shape of the flower petals. So I know there are a lot of details in here and it might be a bit overwhelming. So if you're not sure, you can always start with a pencil first to get the direction of each branch of leaves. I think that would be easier. And then draw each single leaf on each curved branch shape. And if you miss drawing a leaf, or if the size is a little bit too big or too small, don't worry, just keep drawing. Because for art, you don't really need to be exactly the same as reality. Sometimes when certain parts are bigger than reality, it's kind of exaggerating that part of reality. So it's actually very interesting. So while drawing, I am moving my hand pretty fast, and I barely look at the paper, because I think if I look at the paper way too much, there's going to be a lot of self-judgment and self-criticism, and that's not good for the drawing process. So I just focus on the pot of cactus in front of me and just keep drawing without thinking too much. I think the problem with people who give up in drawing and painting is that they think way too much during the process. So I just moved from the left side of the pot to the middle to add more branches of leaves. So I just focus on one area of the pot first before I move on to another part. So I kind of divided this pot into a left side, the middle part, and the right hand side. So now I am moving to the right hand side to add more branches sticking up. There are a lot of overlappings in the middle, around the bottom. So just drawing pretty fast is trying to get the shapes right. It doesn't have to be exactly the same size. And also identifying the dark gap areas and just color those in with solid black. This part is looser, so it's easier. Okay, it's getting easier, closer to the rim of the pot. And now I'm drawing the body of the pot and the bottom tray here. Add a bit of shade to give density. And finally adding a bit of details for the inside, the soil and the little pieces. Okay, so I'm starting to color first with my Derwent Inktense watercolor pencils. So this color is called fuchsia. It's a type of pink, and it's exactly the same color as some of the cactus flowers. So I'm just coloring in, nice and easy, and now I'm switching to a red color. Most of these flowers have this red color. So the color vibrancy of these pencils are actually very strong. So as you can see, I didn't push very hard. Now the colors looks very light, but once I add water on top, all of these colors is gonna suddenly glow. So right now it looks like just regular pencil, but the color is gonna change a lot once I add water. Okay, just add a few flower colors here and there, even in between the leaves. There are a lot of flowers hidden. Okay, and now I switch to a new color, this light green color, for most of these leaves. Nice and fresh green. So again, these Derwent Inktense pencils have much stronger color compared to other regular watercolor pencils. Wow, so as you can see, ooh, all of these pinks, pink, red color suddenly pops up. It looks denser and more vibrant than before, and same as these apple greens. This process is just really satisfying. Okay, now I only need to add a little bit of contrast with my Etchr watercolor paint. So I just mixed brown or burnt sienna into viridian green to add a bit of shade of green here and there in between the leaves, mostly around the bottom. And some dark brown for the soil part. Okay, and now it's time to paint the pot. So I'm just adding some magenta here. As you can see, my brushstroke is curving around, following the curve of the pot, leaving a bit of highlight because this is ceramic. It has white highlights. So I added this magenta pink color because I want to show the reflection of the flowers onto the pot. This is a very important point in this sketch. It gives more liveliness to the pot. And the color of the pot, I mixed it by mixing in ultramarine blue, lots of ultramarine blue with burnt sienna. And a little bit of pink purple too. So the color is almost black. I didn't use black, but I mixed my own, so it's more interesting. Okay, and here is the finished sketch. And the next day in the evening, I see these golden clouds outside the west window. And of course, I'm going to record it in my art journal. I think I'm going to sketch a little panorama on the upper part of the page. Okay, I think I'm going to draw a panorama frame so it's easier to fit the clouds inside, because the clouds, they don't look very organized. So now I'm starting to draw the outline of the chimney and the rooftop of the house on the left hand side, and there's another chimney sticking up. Another chimney for the other house on the right hand side. Rooftop details, and this evergreen tree in the courtyard covering part of the house on the right hand side. Only drawing the upper part of it. I'm just gonna leave it like this, just to wrap it up like that. Just add a bit of more details for the rooftop. I've been sketching this view so many times over the years and throughout the seasons. Adding this tree behind. There's another tree tip there. And this tree with bare branches. And these trees here, they have abundance of leaves in the summer and golden leaves in autumn, and now they're all bare. And just adding a few more details for the rooftop so it looks more like a house. Okay, I think I'm going to stop drawing now, and here's the sky outside. The clouds are moving really fast. So I'm painting from my memory and my impression of what I see and how I feel about it. These clouds are really unstable. They're moving every second. So as you can see, for the first layer, I put on a mix of yellow and orange. Wet on wet, a little bit magenta. And now I'm just adding cerulean blue in between the cloud streaks, trying to establish the boundary between the sky and the clouds. This part is kind of challenging. It takes practice, and it's also really important to let go of self-judgment, because self-judgment can sometimes influence what we do. We might stir way too much and the colors won't look that fresh anymore. And now I am blending on some red-orange on top of the yellow-orange areas, making sure not to blend in with the cerulean blue, otherwise it's gonna look pretty muddy. So this strong red-orange color is showing now. It's not in the reference photo. Okay, so now mixing in purple into ultramarine blue for the shade color of the clouds. This is kind of like a dark gray fog floating on top of these golden clouds. A very special effect. Okay, just gently lay the color on without over stirring. So this process is very, very important to not over stir. Okay, and some thin shades around the horizon. And I think this process of painting from real life observation is really training our artist skills, because, well, it's very easy to paint from reference photographs for me, but I learned so much more painting from real life by doing a lot of memory work and how to express my true self by working through the impermanence of nature. So in my personal feeling, I feel like painting from photographs is just a copy what was there visually. But being in the real time and space is really making myself to connect with the true phenomenon. Okay, and lastly, I'm just adding these dark greens for the trees by mix Viridian green with brown or burnt sienna. And for the rooftops, I mix a lot of ultramarine blue into brown. I want the rooftops to be much denser than the sky, so the sky colors can stand out better. Okay, and that's it. I think I'm done. And here is the look of my art journal spread so far. I think I'm gonna sketch my afternoon coffee and snack underneath. And here is how the sky looks after I finished my sketch. It's very different than before. Okay, so here is my coffee with a piece of, it's called sun cake. Very crispy and creamy. I'm starting to draw my cup first. The opening is an oval. The body and the handle, nice and curvy. The rim, the inside line of the coffee. And the shape of the cake is an imperfect circle. And here is the organic line of my bites. It's very crusty. A lot of zigzag lines. And paying attention to the loose crust on the surface, and that's it for the drawing part. Here's my Inktense watercolor pencils. So I'm just gonna add a tiny bit of colors. Now I'm using this kind of like an ultramarine blue color for the outside shade of the cup. I switched to yellow, lemon yellow, for the crust of the cake, orange and yellow for the surface of my coffee, and now I'm ready to add watercolors on top. So now I'm wetting the cake. As you can see, the vibrancy of these colored pencils suddenly pops up. And now I am adding this brown tone with watercolors. Just wetting this area. This color is from the watercolor pencil. Blending on a little bit of shade, purple blue. And blending on an even more intense brown by mixing ultramarine blue with burnt sienna to add more contrast for the coffee surface. And also using the same color for the inside filling part of the cake. Just give a bit more contrast and 3-dimension. Another layer of ultramarine blue mixed with purple. And now I'm ready to paint the shadows for the cup and the cake. Again, I mix my own shadow color by mixing in ultramarine blue and purple. That's it. Okay, so for the very last space on my journal spread, I'm gonna sketch this half piece of green pepper. So I'm gonna start drawing the outline of the pepper. It's kind of like a very chubby heart shape. Give the 3-dimension here by drawing the curves and the stem. Add a bit of hatching. Now I'm drawing the inside the rim with loose broken lines and this thick cavity here on the upper part, the seeds. A lot of seeds there. Add a bit of hatching to suggest shade. And this other cavity on the bottom. I like to use a lot of broken lines and these hatching lines to suggest shade and the loose form of organic things. Bit of hatching here and there, and that's it for the drawing part. And again, just use my Inktense watercolor pencils in the beginning to give a bit of texture for the pepper, lemon yellow. Also a bit of light green. I think this is called apple green. The color is going to look more vibrant when wetted. So now the colors is looking more smooth. Now I'm beginning to add watercolor paint on top. Radiant green mixed with a little bit of burnt sienna to get a darker shade of green for the inside and outside of the pepper. And leaving the part around the stem white because that part is very, very light, almost white, so not really painting it. And finally, just paint the shadow, ultramarine blue and purple, and that's it. Alright, so here is the finished look of my art journal spread. It took me 2 days to fill it up. This one was done on Friday, December the 3rd, and this page was done on Saturday, December the 4th. So thank you so much for watching my video. If you like my video, please click like and leave me a comment below. Subscribe to my channel for weekly updates. And I will see you very soon next time. Have a great week.